This article is called Asian American Workers See Biggest Losses in Tepid Jobs Report. This article is carefully worded to say what they wanted to say. You just have to peep. Asian Americans saw some of the biggest job losses in January's employment report, which showed a tepid recovery among all categories of workers. The Asian American unemployment rate rose to 6.6 last month compared to 6.3 jobless rate for all workers, the Labor Department said on Friday. The data was surprising because Asian workers saw a significant improvement in employment in December. This group has been jobless for longer. Nearly half of unemployed Asians have been unemployed for 27 weeks or longer in the fourth quarter of 2020, a bigger share than white, black, or Hispanic Americans. So, when they say that, right, it sounds like that they are more affected by what's going on than us, okay? And I'm going to show you how they're playing with the numbers, okay? Because this is a combination here of about 3 or 4 different articles, but I want you to get a complete picture, okay? So, Asian American workers see biggest losses in tepid jobs report. Asian Americans saw some of the biggest job losses in January's unemployment report, which shows a tepid recovery among all categories of workers. The Asian American unemployment rate rose 6% last month. 6.6% last month, compared to a 6.3 jobless rate for all workers, the Labor Department said Friday. The data was surprising because Asian workers saw a significant improvement in employment in December. This group has been jobless for longer. Nearly half of unemployed Asian Americans had been unemployed for 27 weeks or longer in the fourth quarter of 2020, a bigger share than white, black, or Hispanics, right? That's what it said. Much of this has been due to economic and geographic reasons. Many Asian workers work in industries that are particularly vulnerable to business closures, and almost 1/3 of Asian Americans live in California, one of the states hardest hit by the pandemic. Okay? So they said many Asian workers work in industries particularly vulnerable to business closures. So because a lot of them own their own businesses, as the labor market struggles to recover from the pandemic, job losses have disproportionately hit minority workers and men and women. So here's the thing. We started off talking about Asians. Now we're talking about minorities, which now makes the pool a whole lot bigger. Okay? Peep the bait and switch. The black unemployment rate, which fell to 9.2 last month. So let's reiterate. At the beginning of the article, it said that the unemployment rose to 6.6. The African American, the black unemployment rate fell, which means it was higher to 9.2 last month, and remains significantly higher than all other race groups attract. Although more women were employed in January than the prior month, the size of the labor force also shrunk as women continue to drop out amid a widespread school and daycare closures. And unfortunately, we already know the statistics on single female black homes. So what does that mean? A revision to December jobs numbers revealed that male unemployment actually fell in both December and January, though they have regained more jobs that were lost during the pandemic than women. Okay? Now, it's something interesting when they talked about women leaving the workforce. Okay? Their numbers are not included in the unemployment numbers because they're technically not looking for a job, so they don't consider that as part of the numbers. And we're going to get into that. People of color continue to face a slower labor recovery. Joblessness remained especially elevated for people of color in January as the pandemic continued to affect sectors where they are more likely to work. The unemployment rate for Hispanic workers stood at 8.6%, exactly double what it was a year earlier. For Asian workers, joblessness was at 6.6%, more than twice its 3.1% last January. Black workers had the highest unemployment rate of any major racial or ethnic group at 9.2% last month. So remember the first article we read wrote, Asian American workers see biggest losses in tepid jobs report. So how is it that Asian American workers see the biggest losses? That's because you see the way they said biggest losses? That means that before the crisis, they were at 1% and now they're at this percent. It does not mean that they are the most unemployed. But that headline is very misleading. It gives you the impression that, oh my God, the poor Asians. Meanwhile, they at 6.6% and we at 9.2%. And it fell. Theirs is rising and ours is falling to a whopping 9.2. Unemployment rate for white workers is the lowest at 5.7%, though that is still up significantly compared with 3% last January. Okay. The figures underline that although the pandemic's labor market have inflicted widespread damage, workers of color continue to shoulder a heavy burden as the labor market weakness drags on. Hold on, because the Asian job loss is not that much off from the white male job loss at white males at a job loss at white workers at a job loss at 5.7%. And the Asians are at 6.6%. So they're not far off from the white people. So it sounds like their job loss is just because the economy and businesses are closed. It has nothing to do with them being Asian. And like I said, once again, why are we focused on Asians and their job loss when it's very close to the white job loss? When our job loss is at 9.2%. But we got memorandums and executive orders for Pacific Islanders and Asians of the, I don't know how many letters and acronyms. Too many. Okay? The figures that underline, yes, workers of colors shoulder the heavy burden as the labor market drags on. This says unemployment rates for Black, Hispanic, Asian, and white men. Okay, so the Black is this line right here. Okay, all the way above everybody else. Okay, April, and then the Hispanic line is this line right here. And that is all the way, and then comes all the way down. So it looks like during the pandemic, they were able to discriminate against us even better than they have in the past. Because they were able to single us out. Okay? And then this is the Asian market, or the Asian job market, and then these are white men. So once again, where is this Asians have the most job loss? I'm trying to understand. And now let's look at it for women. Okay. So once again, Black is this teal number here, or this teal color, there's still a line here. Okay. Up. And it says Hispanic women hit the highest. Okay. Then come back down here. Okay, where are Asians? Here, right next to the white people. You can see what they're trying to do. They are trying to give Asians every protection under the law that we should have been gotten, that we don't even have. We don't even have. And we built this country and been living here for how long? Nor have any of us went to war with this country. Any of our home countries went to war with this country. No, at this point, none of us even know where our home countries are. And some of us were already here. Some of us, this is our home country. You know, as Professor James Small says, I am a descendant of the Africans that were already here and the Africans that came over on the ship. I am a descendant of them both. So why is it that other people are getting protections and everything while my people's blood is literally spilling through the streets? And the people that are committing these crimes against us are walking around and going to the grocery store because people have taped it. And going to the grocery store and getting out. And speaking, that is like the perfect segue. I didn't even do that on purpose. But that is the perfect segue into this particular story. Judge declines new arrest warrant for Kyle Rittenhouse.
An alternative economic structure in the simplest form would be a Japantown, a little Korea, a little Italy, a little Havana, which means where black folk would do exactly the same thing everyone else is doing. The reason we never had an economic structure in the country for black folk is for three reasons. One, we never had a national plan and a commitment to do it. Two, is that whites are boycotting black communities, and three, blacks are boycotting their own communities. And that's why you'll never see a white person get in his car, go down to a black neighborhood on a Saturday morning, get out and go into a black store and buy anything made by a black person. But neither will you see any Asians coming out of Chinatown, going into a black community buying anything. Everybody supports their own structure except black folk. That's why out of 36 million black folk, after 400 years in this country, you do not have one single solitary black business district in the entire United States. That is naivete, it is insultive, and it's grossly offensive to black folk because you're creating problems for yourselves by not belling up to the bar and accepting responsibility of amassing wealth and capital, creating economic basis, creating an entrepreneurial class, creating businesses, creating jobs that will hire your own people, creating money to take care of your own public services, your lights, your gas, your streets.
How do black people start doing all those things if 98% of the wealth is in the hands of the white power elite?
We started working that very simple. We start where we are. We are right now amassing for disposable purposes something like about $380 billion annually. We're about the 9th richest nation on earth. But unfortunately, that money is dissipated through our fingers.
Sign up for free text alerts. You can find the link in my bio or in the description.
People used to say you black, then watch your mouth. We ain't listen, nah, not for the clout. Original man, all I'm watching is y'all. Crazy how addicted I used to be at the mall. Spending all this hard-earned dough, but never ball. In the game of life was more of a curtain call. Smiling in your face, can't tell I was hurt at all. My little Asian love would go and run me the raw. Brought it to the crib and let me borrow the car. Gotta be fly, you gon' catch the people eye. Can't recognize the real when you always taught a lie. Can't remember a day when my mama wasn't hurting, daddy wasn't brave, and my niggas wasn't cursing. We was just some slaves and amazed with our burdens, trying to find our way through this pain we immersed in. Raised by a gay shit, the sage wasn't working. Remember when they say we was 3/5 a person, but if we came first, how the fuck do that work? I know there's people never like to tell the truth cause it hurt.